Right, how's it going guys? Welcome back to another video. So if you're new here, my name is Jerry and I make plant related videos, houseplants and carnivorous plants. So if you'd like to see more, definitely check out my channel or subscribe if you want to see more, or you can check me out on Instagram at plantingmemoriesYT. Today I wanted to do a Hoya collection video, so show all of my Hoyas in one video, which I've not done for a really long time. And I think my collection's grown slightly. I mean, the plants themselves have grown, but like, I think I've only got 1 or 2 new Hoyas since my last update, my last collection video. But yeah, most of them have grown a lot. A couple of them haven't grown much, but I'll talk about each one as I go. I don't think I'm going to do any particular order because I'm really bad at following set orders anyway. So I'll start out with some of these smaller ones. So these are really dusty. Let me just wipe that dust off. I have here, this is my Hoya Connoisseur, just the regular variety. This was a propagation that I had, I got in a plant trade. And I think since the last video it's only grown 1 new leaf, because I'm pretty sure I had that leaf in my last video. And I've had this for probably coming up to maybe a year, honestly. I do need to pot it into a bigger pot, and I do let this dry out like severely between watering, which is probably why that hasn't grown too much. Next up, I've got in the same size pot a Hoya Crinkle 8. This one's grown a lot since the last video, because I'm pretty sure in the last video it was just up to this set of leaves here, and now it's grown on like all these new ones. And it's interesting because these, my hands are in the way, these 2 leaves really didn't get crinkled, whereas the new ones are coming through like really nice, just like the old ones. So that again was a cutting propagation in a plant trade, and I'm loving that. It's looking so good, but I really don't want to put it up into a bigger pot just yet, only because I think, I don't know, it doesn't need to take up more space than it is in this tiny pot. And unless I plant it with other Hoyas or with other plants in a pot, I think it's going to look a bit like straggly if it's in a larger pot on its own. But I could always propagate it again and fill it out, but I guess they're kind of slow growing anyway, so I probably won't do that. But I'm really enjoying this crinkle. It looks really nice. Again, I leave that with the Connoisseur, and they both dry out like severely between watering, and I probably water them once a month, maybe once every 5 weeks. Honestly, I don't water them often at all. Next up, I've got, this one's just a mixture of loads of different Hoyas. So I've got an Australis Lisa. My stomach is rumbling so bad because I'm hungry. Australis Lisa, I've got a Crimson Princess and a Crimson Queen. And as you can see, the foliage really is not looking good. They dry out so much. And this is in the, I don't know if it's a Hoya mix or like a Aroid mix, the Soil Ninja Aroid mix, and it just dries out a bit too much for me. I have put a bit, well no, there was sphagnum moss in there with the plants, and then I planted it in, so it's got sphagnum moss mixed into the top as well. But for me, this just stays a bit too dry. Like when you water it, it just doesn't really absorb or hold on to anything. And for me personally, I don't really like that, because that's kind of, I don't know how detailed you can see it, but like the leaves are so thin, and they're just, because the soil is like so free draining, it requires me to water it more often, and that's just not my style. So I'm probably going to change out the soil and put it into just multi-purpose compost with, yeah, honestly just multi-purpose compost, because with my Hoyas, the ones that are doing the best, I've literally got them in just multi-purpose compost, and maybe a tiny bit of sphagnum moss mixed in, but that's literally it. And yeah, these ones are just drying out too much, and they haven't put on much growth at all because they've just been so dry. So Australis Lisa was a cutting. Well, these were all cuttings, but this was a plant trade. This is a plant trade. These ones were cut off of my plant, and that one's cut off of my mother plant. Next up, I have a Hoya Polyneura cutting. This one, I was rewatching some of my old videos the other night because I do that sometimes. And this one had thrips in that video that I was talking about. But since then it's grown two lovely new very healthy dark green leaves. You can see the damage there from the thrip situation before. And then spiderwebs. The other day I added another cutting into this pot, and it's already rooted. Like, I rooted it in my propagation box and then planted it into here, and you can just see it's got a new stem shooting up just there. So that's doing really nicely, and the polyneuras root so quickly, which makes me wonder why they're so expensive, but they propagate so easily. Yeah, and it's doing good. It's still just in the cup that I propagated it in, the main one. Sphagnum moss mixed with orchid bark and the terracotta pieces, which came in the Westlands orchid mix, I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. That's my favourite mix to use for mixing with compost, is the Westlands orchid bark. My stomach, I hope you can't hear it on camera, but I'm starving. Yeah, so that's doing good. Then up next, I've got my my Hoya macrophylla Verigata. I don't know the difference between Variegated and Albo marginata, because I think they both look relatively the same. They may be the same thing, but people just call them different things. I'm not 100% sure. But this has one new leaf, and it did have a flower. I'm pretty sure I showed you this recently. The flower stem has just stayed there, and it is showing no signs of dying off. There's not really an active growing point. You can see there's nothing, no new shoot coming through. I've just stuck a tiny like Christmas cactus thing in there because it fell off of my plant, so I just stuck it in there to see if it would root. But this one, that really dries out a lot because I've got it in quite a loose mix with a lot of sphagnum moss. It dries out a lot, and it's in a terracotta pot. So I think I'm going to increase the watering on this one, and I think that might encourage it to grow a bit better. I don't know about fertilizing. Like, I wish I could stick to a fertilizing schedule, because I really would do it, and I think it would, no, I really would do it, but I'd really enjoy it, the ability to do it, because my plants would grow a lot quicker. But I know that I'm just not really going to stick to that watering schedule, because that's just not my style. But this one, like, it still looks lovely in that pot. It's like so minimal, but I really love it, and I'm so glad that a piece of the plant survived, because this was a huge plant when I bought it, and it just absolutely withered away, sadly. But luckily I got a piece left. And it's so strange, because this leaf has grown, this grew quite a long while ago now, maybe January, like February or something. And it is staying this really lime green. It's not really turning white, but I'm really impressed at how like the thickness of the variegation on this compared to the previous leaves. I really think that's going to look good once the leaf matures up. So yeah, there's my macrophylla, which is still, I think, still my favorite Hoya. I just don't have the best specimen, but you like, watch this space. One day this is going to be beautiful. Right. Next up, I have a Hoya that I've actually never shown on my channel, I don't think. No, I definitely haven't. And this is my Hoya Connoisseur Crinkle 8. This is a larger one, and this, was it a cutting? Oh, no, I divided it from a different Hoya. I'm getting attacked by a Hoya down there. And it looks really good from this angle, but then from every other angle it's like fairly, no, I mean, it still looks good. This, I think, has grown a lot. I divided this, I think it was like up to, no, it couldn't have been, yeah, I think it was like only up to here when I divided it from the mother plant, and it's grown that much. I'm pretty sure it's grown that much. I may be exaggerating slightly. But this is just planted up in just multi-purpose compost with a tiny bit of perlite, and this dries out a lot, and it stays in my south-facing window. Yeah, right there next to my pickle plants is where it stays. And it's looking really good. It's growing really well. It's dusty, but joined the club, everything in my room is, like, all plants in my room are dusty. I just need to take them outside and give them a good spray down, or brush over them with a cloth or something. But yeah, it's looking really good. I've got so many Hoyas, but none of them have. No, they have. One of my Hoyas has flowered, and that was the macrophylla, as you saw. Next up is my newest Hoya, which I did record an unboxing of it, but I may or may not have uploaded it yet. I don't know. Well, I haven't yet, but by the time this uploads, maybe I have. This is my Hoya yrti Variegated, and I got this on eBay for 15 quid, which wasn't a bad price considering the cuttings at the moment are going for like £6 each, just for like a 2-leaf cutting or something. So far, well, I need to water it because it's looking a little bit dehydrated. So far I'm impressed. Well, I just want to pot it up into a different pot because there's like quite a few separate plants in here where they've obviously just been propagated from cuttings. I need to tidy up as well because there's a lot of dirt on the leaves from the packaging. What was I going to say? I'm going to pot this up into a terracotta pot, and I want to have it hanging with my other Hoyas. So I think, yeah, I'm looking forward to this kind of trailing a bit more because at the moment it's very not trailing, but it's beautiful and it's definitely one of my favorites. It gives me the same vibes as the Crimson Princess, which is my favorite variegation in the Hoyas. I think that would change in a minute, don't worry. But yeah, I'm really happy with that. It's looking good. I'm just looking forward to it growing, and I'm going to change out the soil. Like when I put it up into a terracotta pot, I'm going to change the soil out. It's in like just multi-purpose compost, probably a bit like peat, but it just doesn't absorb the water very much. It becomes kind of hydrophobic, and I want to change that because it just feels like it's harder to water, even though I don't know if that makes any sense, but it just feels like it doesn't absorb the water like my other Hoyas do. So yeah, I'll probably put a bit of sphagnum moss, mix a tiny bit of sphagnum moss in with the soil because that really helps it absorb the water a lot quicker, in my personal opinion. Right, next up I've got this is a Hoya pupakalix propagation of the purple Hawaiian. And what this what this is the tendrils like this, because my purple Hawaiian is right here. When I first got the mother plant in the packaging, I think just one of the tendrils had like bent, so it snapped, and it had no leaves on, so I cut it off and I stuck it in this pot, and I just thought, well, if it roots, it roots, and if it doesn't, then like I haven't lost anything. And this is it, maybe a year later. Like it's taken a long time to grow, but I'm really impressed because it has grown really nicely and it looks really good. There are 2 and 3, is that 3 or 2? 2 plants in there. So yeah, just like a nice little propagation. I'll probably end up trading this on Facebook with someone, or like getting rid of it somehow. Like, I won't throw it away, I'll probably trade it or sell it or something, but it's looking really pretty, and I don't feel like I'm not attached to it. I don't feel like I need it anymore, so I'm going to be looking to get rid of this one. The leaves are so thick, I've only just noticed. They're like I know it kind of like, they feel almost succulent. It's strange. Yes, there's that one which has grown really well, and it put out a few new leaves this year. Like some of the larger leaves are this season's growth, so it's looking really good. And it's just in multi-purpose compost with perlite. So yeah, I definitely prefer growing my Hoyas in soil as opposed to like Hoya and sphagnum moss that a lot of people grow. They grow like, I don't know, people grow Hoyas in all sorts of mixes, but for me, I just grow it in multi-purpose compost and they do fine. Again, it's literally just down to how your watering schedule is, or if you're an overwater or an underwaterer. And luckily for me, my Hoyas love that I'm an underwaterer. Next up, I think this is, yeah, I've got 3 more left, which feels like it's not all of them, but I'm looking around and I can't see any more. So next up is my large, stab me in the face. My large Hawaiian purple. This is the adult plant, obviously, and it is growing so nicely. I did have this under my grow light in that corner, which is where the light's coming from, just in case you wondered. I had this under that grow light for ages, and the tendrils at the top didn't send any leaves out, and then I moved it to across the room into a darker spot, and then all of a sudden all the leaves shot out of the stem, so it's looking really good. And there's actually, I don't know if you can see, there's some new leaves coming out. If I just put it in front of my face, you can see the new leaves coming out of the stem, and that has only started growing within a couple of weeks. It's really green at the end again. So that is growing amazingly, and it's huge, and I still love it in this pot. It's just a tall, dark terracotta pot. Again, this is just in multi-purpose compost. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can. It grows lovely, and I've through the winter I literally watered it maybe once or twice, and the leaves dried up so much that they were all wrinkled, because I was kind of in a neglectful mood for the entire winter. Well, to the plants, yeah, but yeah, and it didn't drop any leaves, they just went wrinkly. So this one, very robust and easy to care for. So definitely, if you can get your hands on one of these, go for it. One of my top favorites. I feel like I say that about everything, but that really is one of my top favorites. And then going on to my other two top favorite Hoyas, which are down here. I'll show I've just had to balance them over here so they don't fall over, but this is a huge, they're in these nice macrame hangers now, and this is a huge Hoya Polyneura. This was my original plant, which I got for 15 quid on Facebook Marketplace from Lauren, and it's grown amazing, and I've taken maybe 10 cuttings off of this, only like double leaf cuttings, so just like 2-leaf cuttings, but it just grows so prolifically. And I think this, yeah, I found with this one it grows all year round. It doesn't stop growing in certain times of the year. So at the moment it's putting on some new leaves, like under here, I don't know if you can see, but there's like, can you see, yeah, the new shoot coming, just here as well. There's no leaves coming everywhere. So it's doing really well, and it looks lovely. I have this hanging up in my window, and it just loves it there. So it's in a north-facing window that doesn't get any direct sunlight, just bright indirect light, and it loves it. And this is the one also that had thrips last year, but I quickly cleared up the thrips, and it is loving life. The Hoya Polyneura likes to be kept a little bit more damp, so I water this double the amount that I water all my other Hoyas. And it really enjoys it, and it's just in this small terracotta pot, but it's in a mixture of multi-purpose compost with a tiny bit of sphagnum moss mixed in, just to allow it to absorb the water a little bit quicker. And it is loving life, obviously, because look how huge it is. I don't often see Polyneuras this big, so I'm very happy about that, because it's quite a showstopper. And yeah, proud of that one. Looks really good. I do need to dust it. I did fertilize this one through the winter, like I say through the winter like I did it a lot. I fertilized it maybe like 5 times in a row, like, so every time I'd water it I'd give it a little bit of fertilizer. The fertilizer that I've been using is not what I'd recommend using or anything. It's just because I have it, and it's just orchid food, and that's the only thing that I seem to use. And I've had this for probably a year, and I don't know if you can see how full up it still is, but it's like full to here. So I really don't fertilize ever, hardly ever. Sometimes I remember, and sometimes, mostly, I just forget. But that's what I use. Sometimes I'm not going to sit here and say that that's the best thing to use or recommend it to you, but that's just what I've got, so I use it sometimes. It is lovely. Because originally I was going to take cuttings of this and then plant them back into the top, but I really don't think it needs it anymore. And maybe I could do 1 or 2, but it really doesn't need it, because it just keeps growing from from there anyway. You see that new, like the new shoot coming up here that was like brand new from I want to say maybe 4 weeks ago, and it's just growing so well. So there's the polyneura. Let me try not to break it. And then my last one is my oldest Hoya that I have, and you can probably all guess what it is because I rave about it quite often, and it looks so good, and it's at the moment it's put on so much new growth. I'm going to try and pick it up without dropping it, and it's getting huge. And this is my Hoya Connoisseur Crimson Princess, and you can hardly see the pot through the foliage now because it's just got so big. There's the pot from the back. It's in just a large, well, yeah, kind of large terracotta pot. I have this hanging on my window, and you can see all the pink foliage is the new growth. Oh, it's heavy. You can see like it comes through really nice and dark, and then it gets lighter to the yellow variegation. And this one is just a solid favourite of mine, again, as all of them are. But you can see why it just grows so well. And I've had this for, God, maybe, I want to say 2 years, but I feel like it couldn't have come around that quick. But I think it probably is around 2 years. I bought this for like £6 from a garden centre, and it was really small. Like the foliage was just covering the top of the pot, and it was just like a 12cm nursery pot. Was it? Yeah, maybe a 10cm. Not that really matters, but yeah, it's grown this much since then, and I've taken countless cuttings off of it, given them to people, and yeah, it's just doing so well. Did I say what it's planted in? You can guess. It's planted in multi-purpose compost with a bit of sphagnum moss and a little bit of perlite, and it's doing wonderfully. And I water this so ridiculously little that it would shock you. I water it every, I'd say maybe, well, like maybe once a week actually. Maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, I'll give it like the tiniest splash of water, and I give it such a small amount because it hangs over my bed. I don't want it to like drip out the bottom, even though it's got a tray at the bottom. But when the soil's so dry, it just goes straight through and then drips out the bottom. So I give it such a small amount of water at a time, but it seems to be doing the job because it never really looks too dehydrated, and all this new growth is growing lovely. So I'm obviously doing something right. And again, with the fertilizer, I've maybe fertilized this, I think I fertilized this one about the same as the polyneura, to be honest, so hardly at all. I do want to get a new fertilizer, but I also at the same time don't seem to require it or feel like I don't feel like I require it anyway. But I would like to try a fertilizer. I think maybe I won't, I don't know, I've got hair on my face. But it's doing so good, so I don't think it really needs it. But I would like to see this one flower, but at the same time I'm not really worried about about Hoya flowers. They're not really something that I'm like really wanting to see. It would be lovely to see, but I'm not like dying for it. I'm gonna put it down, my arm is aching. So that is all of my Hoyas. That is definitely all of them, yeah. Yeah, and to be fair, I've got quite the collection going on. I know it's nothing compared to some people's collections of Hoyas, but for me personally, that is, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, just pretty good. And I have to say, there's actually no Hoyas that I'm really looking out to get. Like, I think the only Hoya that I was kind of wanting recently was this guy, the yrti Variegated, and that's just because it gives me similar vibes to the Crimson Princess, and that's like a solid favourite, so I just thought it was really cool. I do have a terracotta pot in the garden that I'm going to put this up into. I just need to find a place to hang it, unless I don't know, I'll think about it. I'd like to plant it into a smaller pot. I think this pot is not too big, but like for my personal, how I want it to look, I want it in a bit of a smaller pot. and that's going to be fine. If I need to divide it, I can take a couple of bits out and just only pot up some, like a few of them into a smaller pot. The options there. So my throat is getting sore from talking so much. Yeah, so that is all of my Hoyas. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Let me know what your favorite one is, and if you have a Hoya recommendation, let me know, because I'm always happy to look for new Hoyas. I'm not actively looking to buy new plants at the moment. I'm actually going through a bit of a plant purge where I'm just going to get rid of the ones that I don't really feel like I need anymore. Yeah, I say that I'm still propagating so many Hoyas, so many plants, but I'm going to be getting rid of a few. Yeah, so let me know if you enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed that video. And yeah, I look forward to speaking to you all in the comments. Yeah, have a good day, and I'll see you guys in my next video.